Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Twameva Mata Sapita Twameva Bandhusha Sakha Twameva Vidya Brahminam Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I think you two know each other. Aditi, have you met Takao?
Yeah, we've met.
All right. So where are we in our text?
On page 64, the last verse.
Yeah.
There's no Roman numeralization. All the numbering is in the Sanskrit. So it's kind of hard. Did you find it?
Yes.
Okay, go.
Ahiriv Garnad Pititaha Samananma Rana Adiva Gurnapadiva Yaha Stribhyastam Deva Brahmanam Viduhu. The gods know him to be a Brahmana who is afraid of crowd as of a snake, and of honor as of death, and of woman as of a dead body.
So I suspect this is a quote. And when we say the gods know this person as a Brahmana, we don't mean the caste. We mean a knower of Brahman. So let's look at the three things. And again, let's not take it literalistically. One of the marks of a person of steady wisdom is they are free from fear. So here we mean they have no concern for it. So what's the first idea?
Who is afraid of crowd as of a snake.
So the idea is the person of steady wisdom no longer seeks all the interactions that most of us have a need for. This loka vasana. Need for approval. I'm afraid of being alone. I'm plagued by loneliness. In truth, the person of steady wisdom is perfectly comfortable in a crowd, but she doesn't seek it out with the kind of neediness that many of us still have. So Takao is going to go live up in a cabin in Willits. Not a lot of crowds up there, are there? And I always think of Swami Tapovana, who did not come down lower than Rishikesh. He would not come further down on the Gangetic plain, largely because when you're in the city, you're going to experience the thoughts and feelings of others as if they were your own. And the urban mind is messy. It's a lot more peaceful. High in the Himalayas or in the country. Next idea. In the same verse.
And of honor as of death.
Yeah. So one has to be careful that ego doesn't reassert itself. People give you praise and honor. This is just my viewpoint. But I know the Buddhists talk about a condition called second mind or enlightenment sickness. This is when, even after realization, the ego reforms with the idea, I know something significant. I'm an awakened person. I have an awakened mind. I'm special. I don't know if this is true or not, but someone once told me that it took the Buddha years to burn out that thought. When you meet a teacher, you can pretty much tell if they have enlightenment sickness or second mind, because they want to tell you about their experience all the time. And the devotees or the disciples are all focused on the glory of the teacher. But a Satguru is psychologically very little. And a Satguru always turns our minds back upon ourselves, the self. So when you leave the satsang, you're not going, oh, Guruji was so wonderful. But you have a sense, oh, I get it. Aham brahmasmi, I am. At least for the time you were in satsang. Teacher disappears. And the next idea?
Of woman as of a dead body.
Yeah. And it's women or men. So the bija vasana is identification with the body. Now listen carefully. A lot of women will say, I don't want to be treated as a sex object. I have news for you. The human body is a sex object. We're instinctually programmed. And it's not just men viewing women, it's women viewing men, or if you're have other gender preferences, same thing, doesn't matter. That's what the body is, especially if you're young. So part of being identified with the body is that we have an attachment to this dimension of it. Now, Your sex powers are God-given, not to be despised, but not to be taken lightly. It's very, very powerful energy. And if you're going to be sexually active, nothing wrong with that. All of the rishis were householders. But be judicious. So, brahmacharya literally means to roam around in Brahman. It does not mean celibacy. It's often translated as such. But it does mean that we use our sex powers judiciously, intelligently. People can get very, very hung up, get addicted to sex. So this is what he's talking about, and especially for young. Major attachment. It's not evil. It's not bad. Now, if you're a monk, which is the audience that Vidyaranya is addressing, remember, where is he? He's in the Sringeri Mutt, and he's dealing with only young men. No ladies there at this point, who are coming in, and that's going to be an issue that's going to afflict 16, 17, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. Next verse.
Raja divarta tesham syat ityuktvat sarvada ganad bhittiti rupa patyate sammanasya sakti karan atya purushartha virodhitvan marana badhyeyatvam narakadi iti va patha ata eva smriti. Fear of crowd as of snake, sarpavad ganabhiti, is justified by the fact earlier said thus, they will indulge in politics, etc. Attachment is caused by honor, which is opposed to the aim and object of life, so should be shunned as death. As of hell, Narakdiva is the other reading of the text. Therefore, the Smriti has it thus.
So here he's trying to expound on the same, what the Smriti, the text said. So the idea that if you're involved in politics, and guess who was involved in politics before he became a sannyasi? Vidyaranya. See? So he not only was deeply involved in politics, but he got great honor because of it. He was chief minister of the Raja. Now, what do we do if someone gives us a compliment? You graciously say thank you, and you ignore it. Let it pass through. Always remember where we get attached, usually on the positive side of the teeter-totter. Most of us are more than willing to try to renounce negative stuff. I was talking with someone who was saying that he had this terrible fear that if he shared at a meeting, people were going to think he was stupid, stuff like that. Couldn't seem to drop it. He gets all this fear about expressing himself. And what he doesn't see, didn't see at the time, is he drinks up the approval like new wine. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, that was so wise. Yada, 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 yada. And if we get attached to that, then the fear of sounding stupid, obviously. He's a dancer. You ever had performance anxiety going out on stage?
Yeah.
And the way to be free from it is put your mind on the dance. Not on what other people think of you. Oh, so and so's in the front row. Next one.
Asamanat po prithvi samanatu tapah kshayah architah pujito vipro dugdha gauriv siddhati etadevabhit pretyavamana upadeya taya smaryate. Dishonor increases the force of austerity in the form of meditation, but honor diminishes it. The Vipra have been worshipped and venerated. The Vipra, having been worshipped and venerated, becomes exhausted like a cow after milking. In keeping with this idea, the acceptability of insult is described thus in the Smriti.
So, in Yoga Vasishta, I was working with that with a student, and we went through the song of Vitahavya, where he says, "Oh, pleasure, you have fondled me for lifetimes." Very interesting language. You have kept me in bondage. And then, hail to you, noble suffering. Because of you, I am developed mature detachment and been able to realize the self. So ego wants to seek praise and avoid himself. What does the yogi do? Be empty. I love Shankara's metaphor. You want to have a mind like a wicker basket with water just being pouring through it. Modern day image, your colander. When you're rinsing veggies, water just pours through. Let positive and negative feedback just pour. Doesn't mean to be rude. Someone praises you, graciously say thank you. If someone insults you, thank you for sharing. And let it go through. Because none of it is true about you. Is the self honorable or dishonorable? No. Is the self a good person or a bad person? No. Now, this doesn't mean to go around seeking insults. But you will get your allotted dose of praise and censure in this life based on the force of the past. Don't believe any of it. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
तथा चरेत वै योगी सताम धर्म मनुस्मरन् जना यथा व मन्येरंग चेयुर्नेव संगतिम्. The yogi, remembering the ways of the wise, should behave in such a manner that people treat him with contempt and never go for his company.
I'm not sure I believe that. I'm not sure I agree with it there. I prefer to take on the notion the yogi is appropriate to circumstances. She doesn't resist any environment. If you're around ignorant people, you don't agitate their minds. You don't beat them over the head with the Vedanta. So I think there's a little bit of unconscious projection here on Vidyaranya's part. My suspicion is he had a lot of pride. Hard time letting it go. I push back on it. The mind of the yogi is neutral, and you don't want to behave in a way where you incur censure. But you can't be afraid of it. So when I had my last boss at my church job, I was very lucky. In 40 years, I worked for the churches. 20 years on and off for the Episcopalians and 20 years for the Roman Catholics. Almost all of my bosses were pretty good. But the last one, paradoxically, he was Indian. In my opinion, was unethical and a misogynist and unjust. And I was always kind, but I would be very direct. He would want to hire a musician and pay them half of what the diocesan minimum was. And I would say, Father, that's unjust. Well, they don't have to take the job. And I said, Father, when you have your brother priest come and substitute for you, do you pay them half? And of course, I looked at it with just utter contempt. All right. He was unjust. He was angry at this one woman lay minister. So he's going to take part of her duties away from her. Youth ministry, stuff like that. Just pissed at her unjustly. I'm at a staff meeting, and I said, so Father, are you going to take on those duties for this ministry? I knew he wouldn't, he's lazy. Over and over again, I would speak truth to power. with no fear. What's the worst he was going to do? Fire me? That's fine. You know, I'm a yogi. Renounce him. So the yogi has to be fearless as she moves through the world. But you don't go cultivating insults with bad behavior. Any questions about this? All right, going on.
स्त्रीषु द्विविधो दोषः प्रतिषिद्धत्वं जुगुप्सितत्वं चेति तत्र प्रतिषिद्धत्वमात्रं कदाचिद्रागात् प्रारब्धबलादुल्लघ्यते. In women, the fault is of two kinds. One is her being prohibited for the sannyasins, and the other is in her being odious by nature. The prohibition is sometimes violated by one who is deeply attached and forced by powerful prarabdha karma.
Yes. Again, I think he's got an issue here. I don't think women smell badly. But again, people are afflicted by lust. Get people in a lot of trouble. I know you two have been around ashrams and yoga communities with various teachers and stuff like that. Have you ever come in contact with someone who sets themselves up as a teacher and then has bad behavior, maybe takes advantage of people because they're in a position of power to predate on them sexually?
Yes.
And then you hear the rationalization. Well, it's their prarabdha, they chose it. I don't agree. There's a power dynamic there. Power dynamic. Doesn't mean a teacher can't have a spouse. But that's different than someone who's taking advantage of their students. And it's more common than you would think. And part of the issue is people lie about it. Disciples cover it up. And then the teacher claims a mode of being in the world that's not true for them. And that destroys people's faith. A lot of people leave the path because of their disappointment with an unethical teacher. Sad. Going on.
तदेतदभिप्रेत्याह स्मृतिः मात्रा स्वस्त्रा दुहित्रा वा नैकस्य यासनो भवेत् बलवानिन्द्रिय ग्रामो विद्वासमपि कर्षति. With this in view, the Smriti has it thus: one should never be in the same bed or seat, even with his mother or sister or daughter. For the powerful groups of organs, of sense, as well as actions, drag down even a wise man.
Yes. So don't tempt fate. I'm not sure that you have to be concerned about being in bed with your mother. But the idea here is, especially if it's your product to be a teacher, act in an ethical way. Understand this: the equipment is by definition finite. The enlightened sage can make mistakes. But if they're truly a person of steady wisdom, they're perfectly willing to admit it. Oops. Now, every action of the woman of knowledge is perfect. How do I know that? Because it is. It happens. Listen carefully. Every action you do is perfect. Person of knowledge just happens to know that. Aditi was late for class this morning. That's perfect. How do I know that? Because it happened. Difference is you and I may go, person of steady wisdom knows it's all unfolding just as it's supposed to. Absolutely nothing happens in God's universe by mistake. Don't have false or unrealistic ideas about what self-realization delivers. I can remember very vividly, I witnessed a conversation that Swamiji was having with a disciple who was married, who revealed, and he and his wife had been disciples of Swamiji for decades. And this fellow revealed to Swamiji that for 10 years, his wife decided she was going to be a celibate and quit having sex with him. And this fellow was saying, it's really hard. And Swamiji says, that's not right. She has a duty to do if she's married. She didn't understand her dharma as a householder. And Swamiji says, I did not know she was doing this. So yes, he was highly intuitive. But there it was. He said it. He did not know. She kept in front of it that she was deciding to do this. So don't think that the guru somehow has all these occult powers. Many are incredibly intuitive. Their minds are so quiet. But the equipment is by definition finite. The self is infinite. Are there any questions on this? Swamiji addressed this issue. And he said, if you cannot see who I am, then just see me as a mouthpiece of the scriptures. Do not get involved with my personality. And people wouldn't believe him, and they kept wanting him to like them. give lots of money so that he would approve of them. Any questions or thoughts on this? And you will find at times the teacher may disappoint you. I'm sorry for that. Nobody becomes a yogi to drive people away from God. But it happens. So you and I must be very clear of where is the locus of power and energy in yoga. Shankara is very clear on it. Success in spiritual endeavors is entirely due to the degree of the qualifications of the student. All right, next verse.
तथा च स्मृतिभिर्जुगुप्सा वर्णिता स्त्रीणामवाच्य देशस्य क्लिन्ननाडीव्रणस्य च अभेदेऽपि मनोभेदाज्जनः प्रयेण वञ्चते चर्मखण्डं द्विधा भिन्नमपानोदगारधूपितं सद्रमन्ते नारास्तत्र साहसं किमतः परम्. In the Smritis, detestation is described thus. There is little difference between the unmentionable region of a woman and an exuding fistulous sore, but viewing it in a different light, one is often deceived. Can there be anything more than the impudence of those men who are fond of that piece of skin with an aperture in the middle and stinking with the foul wind emitted from the posterior opening?
This guy has an issue. I don't have anything else to say about this. This fellow has an issue. Now, what the scriptures will say, if lust is a problem, one of the meditations that Shankara will give us is what I call the dissection meditation. Ooh, look at that dude. He's got a six-pack. Oh, yeah, that's really hot. Why don't you imagine flaying his tummy and fondling his intestines? Ew! It's just a body. Oh, she's got such a beautiful bosom. Oh, yes. Well, flay it open and you can sit there and fondle her mammary glands. See, it's our outer image of it all. I'm always fond of remembering, this is back in the early 70s. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche came to the Bay Area and he was going to do a tantric yoga workshop at UC Berkeley. All these people signed up. Oh, we're going to learn kinky sex, all this kind of stuff. For the whole week, for 8 hours a day, he showed videos of autopsies. But after 8 hours of it, for a whole week, you see the body I disagree with Vidyaranya. I don't think you need to have disgust for the body. That's just an aversion. You want to see the body the way a doctor sees a body. You know, the body, doctor, you go to the doctor, they're not looking at your body as a sex object. They're a plumber. They're looking at how all the pipes and joints work, and how the fluids are moving through it. I would suggest endeavor to see bodies just neutral. Any thoughts on this? So again, all scripture is written in a cultural and historical context. You need to read with a well-informed conscience, with some discernment. We understand things differently today. There's nothing else I need to say about that. I disagree with Vidyaranya. Next verse.
Ye ramante narastatra krimitulyaha katham na te iti va patah atah pratishedha jugupsayorubhayorvivikshaya gunapadrishtanto antrabhihitah. There is another reading. Are they not like worms who are fond of, etc.? The example of a dead body is given here to express both prohibition and abomination.
And I'm not even going to go into it. I think he's wrong. Going on.
Yena purnamivakasham bhavatyekena sarvada shunyam yasya janakirna tam deva brahmanam viduhu. The gods know him to be a brahmana, to whom, when alone, the akasha appears to be ever full, and a crowded place appears to be empty.
All right, and where were we?
The gods know him to be a brahmana, to whom, when alone, the akasha appears to be ever full, and a crowded place appears to be empty.
Yeah, so Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, my favorite saying from Chandogya. Sarvam Idam, all this is verily Brahman. Wherever she goes, all is Maya, all is bliss. Sarvam Maya, Sarvam Maya. And Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real, and the names and forms are just illusion. The woman of steady wisdom doesn't get engaged in attached, identified with the names and forms. Much healthier attitude than what he said in the last few verses, in my opinion. Going on.
Sansarena me kakitvena vasthanam hayalasyadhi hetutvatvarjayam anasamuha shchata tatha vidha dvada bhyudvayaha yoginastu tadve paritatvam ekakitve patyavid Vignena Dhyananupritto Paripurnena Paramanandatmana Sarvamakasham Purnamivabhasate Ato bhayalasya shokamohadayo na bhavanti Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmayvabhuta vijanataha tatra ko moha kaha shoka ekatvam manusyataha. Solitude causes fear, sloth, etc. Hence, the householders should avoid living alone and lead a gregarious life which is free from fear, etc. This is entirely opposite in the case of a yogi. A yogi, being alone, absorbed in unhindered meditation, experiences the self, which is the supreme bliss pervading the entire space. Hence, to him, fear, sloth, grief, and delusion, etc., do not occur. For as the Isha Upanishad has it thus, when to one who knows all beings have verily become one with his own self, then what delusion and what sorrow can there be for him who has seen the oneness?
Yeah. So one of the things that householders have, cultural issue, both positive and negative for Indians, is what I call enmeshment. The primary locus of identity is the family. In the West, it's the individual. But we have a statement that the young people use, FOMO. What's FOMO?
Fear of missing out.
Yeah. I want to be with other people. I want to belong. I want to be having the fun that other people are having. Many people are terrified of being alone. Why? Because you're there with your own mind. Some people, when they're alone, are in very bad company. But a yogi is kevala, alone. Whether she's among people or by herself. We have to be comfortable in our own solitude. We have to be able to withdraw from the world and revel in the sound. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Jana kirnam sthanam rajavatardina dhyana virodhitvadanandatma pratiti rahitam tachunyamiva chittam kleshayati jagato mithyatvadatmanaha purnatvachedatham. A crowded place acts as an obstacle to meditation through all sorts of talk, politics, etc., and the absence of the awareness of the self therein, which is the supreme bliss, afflicts the mind like the void, because of the unreality of the world and the fullness of the self.
So for someone who's not yet rooted in Brahman, being in public places, and again, Vidyaranya was a politician, it can cause your mind to extrovert. So frequently in a Buddhist monastery. Everybody has to do work. The beginner, the novice monks are given jobs like work in the gift shop, be at the welcome desk, because their minds are not yet quiet. It's not a big deal that they have to extrovert into the world to deal with other people. The more advanced monks, they're out in the garden, or in the kitchen. They're given tasks where it's easier to do meditation and action. Now listen carefully. For the person of steady wisdom, a mind extroverted into the world, a mind absorbed in solitude, makes absolutely no difference. It's mind steadiness. Depends on where we are. I saw it. Any thoughts, questions? I'm not fond of this section, to be very honest with you. Going on.
Ativarnashrami Sutta Sahitayam Mukti Khande Panchamadhyaye Vishnu Prati Parameshwarena Varnitaha. The Ativarnashramin, who has transcended the castes and stages of social life, has been described by Parameshwar to Vishnu in the 5th chapter of the section on liberation in the Sutta Samhita thus.
So this is his footnote. Going on.
Brahmachari grihastascha vanaprastho atha bhikshukaha ativarnashrami tepi kramacheshta vichakshanam. The student, Brahmacharin, the householder, Grihastha, the forest dweller, Vanaprastha, the religious mendicant, Bhikshuka, and the one transcending all, Ativarnashramin, if they are well versed in their respective professions, then are superior in the order mentioned, i.e., the latter is superior to the former.
Yes. So in these, here it's divided into 5 stations of life. Usually it's 4. What he's saying is each stage is superior to the prior. So we start off as a brahmachari. Here that just means your student days. Then what do? After you finish school, you find a spouse, get married, start a profession, and then the dharmas for the grihastha, the householder, very different. Make money, be successful, enjoy conjugal relations, serve the society, produce something of value. Then when your kids are grown up and they've gotten married, then you enter vanaprastha, semi-retirement. You give the business to your kids, you give the house to the kids. Mind you, these are all multi-generational living situations. Now, I don't know if they do this down, in San Jose, but in San Francisco especially, sometimes I see it across the way here. I used to go to Golden Gate Park and especially among the Chinese community, you'd see old ladies pushing baby carriages. Have you seen that where you are? Why? These are grandmas. Because the kids are at work. Grandparents become built-in babysitters. In many cultures, that's how it was planned. And then you can begin your serious spiritual pursuits. You have time to go hear pravachana, some teacher giving a talk. You have time to read some scripture. You may start a meditative. Then in the traditional 4 ashramas, the last one is sannyas. When you're done with it all, leave the world and become a sannyasi. Now, a caveat with all of this, you can become a sannyasi at any time, as long as your responsibilities are fulfilled. For example, in the Chinmaya mission, if someone wants to take the brahmachari training course, end up becoming a brahmachari and eventually a swami or a swamini, one of the questions they ask you is, who's going to take care of your parents? Somebody has to do it. You have an older sibling who will do that. Then, do you have student debt? Very interesting question. You must fulfill your responsibilities to the society. You have student loans, you got to pay them off before you can do that. Or your parents. So you have to leave the world responsibly. Any thoughts on this? Now again, the only renunciation that is effective is to renounce the mind. You can take on the orange cloth and have a 5-syllable name. And if you're attached to that status, if you're attached to your learning, if you're attached to other people treating you with respect, etc., you're still a bogey, seeker after worldly enjoyment. I can remember in Coimbatore, when I was there in 94, some of the people in the mission say, oh, you need to go see this woman. She was one of Swamiji's earliest disciples. Old lady at this point. So we went to her apartment. There she was, this wonderful, charming lady. She was a widow at this point. She'd been a householder. Sitting there watching television. And a couple of us, we just sat there. Oh. Sufis say she had the taste. She did not take up the orange cloth, get the name change, leave the world. She was in the world, but not of it, as the Master Jesus said. Now, it's easier if you leave the world. Much easier, but not necessary. Next verse. We'll do one more.
Ate varnashrame prokto guruhu sarvadhikarinam na kasyapi bhavechishyo sathaham purushottamam. The Ativarnashamin is said to be the preceptor of all men who are the rightful claimant of the above-mentioned professions. O Purushottama, like me, he never becomes a disciple of anybody.
So, the person of steady wisdom is established in that truth, doesn't need to be a disciple of anyone. So Swamiji has always used to say that the guru is a temporary psychological device. Find out who the guru really is. You find out it's really just yourself. You will always love the teacher. But the teacher ceases to be necessary once you and I are rooted in that. Okay, we'll end here so the plumbers can come back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.